Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to the warehouse walkthrough. This is going to be my third attempt at making this video. I'd like to start at the depot box itself. A standard depot box has maximum of 4 adapters, so it's going to be 4 inputs and 4 outputs. And all that matters is that we leave one of these inputs open for additional depot boxes and one of these outputs open, so that way it can go into our splitter wall. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go from depot box to splitter wall. It's going to go up this wall and then back down and through the rest of these splitters and then into all of these conveyors. And from these conveyors, it's going to go into this combiner line and all the way down until it gets to here. From there, it is going to go over to these 4 buffer boxes. And now these buffer boxes are done with a very specific amount of adapters. There are 10 in total. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 up there. But the boxes themselves are wired in series. So first box, second box, third box, fourth box, and then out from that fourth box, we come over to this splitter wall. From the splitter wall, we go down and we split out these resources. So that's the output of the splitter wall, but we split out of these resources and we go over to, for instance, I'm actually not sure where that one goes. Oh, that's for food. That one's not important. But we primarily go to our main 4 resource groups. So wood, stone, metal, and high qual. And it's important to note that this is what's called a push configuration. So we have one conveyor here and then another one over here. And this one here is pushing. So if we check this filter, we can see that we have 1,000 wood being pushed out at any given time. So that 1,000 wood is going to go into this splitter, and every single one of these lines is going to have 1,000 wood pushed to them. So no matter where they go, they're going to have 1,000 wood pushed to that location. So this one here has 1,000 wood being pushed. If I take that 1,000 wood out, it will be replenished. And we take the outputs of all of these, and that's this yellow line here, and they all go into a single line. So this is all 4 of my resources being combined and then pushed outward from there. And the nice thing is that will allow you to create boxes like this, which have all of your resources in a single location. So if you want to repair something, you would take your resources out, throw the thing you want in your repair bench, whatever that thing was. And then when you were done, instead of placing the resources back in the box, because the box is now full again, it's repopulated, you would just put those items away. These coffin boxes all chain back to that depot box that's outside. So if you see a coffin box on my ceiling, that is in fact a depot box. So from this splitter wall, we go out to the next splitter wall, which is the large splitter wall. Okay. And from the large splitter wall, we actually go out to all of the individual storage. And again, this is push on push configuration. So what's important to note is, let's just say low grade here. If I want to use it for automation, I have one that is taking items in, and then I have one that has a maximum set that is pushing out. Okay. By the way, a pull configuration would be like if you had right here, you had 3 conveyors. And the reason you don't want to do a pull configuration is because you can reach adapter limit. So for instance, my ore boxes here, there are 20 ore boxes directly in a row. And you can have problems. I want to say it's 32 adapters is the maximum that you can have in a row. These are all built as modules, by the way, which is why so many things are kind of split the way they are. So let's talk about, we'll go over sulfur first since it's right here. Okay. This one brings sulfur and charcoal in, and then it brings gunpowder back in. So this one pushes charcoal and sulfur out. Okay, and that charcoal and sulfur gets pushed out, gets thrown into these 3 splitters, and then goes out to the autocrafters, the 6 autocrafters on these tier 1 workbenches. And then they are all rechained together in a single line. And then that is just fed back into these boxes. And then from that down here, we have one pushing gunpowder for automation and one pushing sulfur for automation. And I could have done these individually, but they go to different places. So it's good to separate them. So if I follow this line goes to this line, and this line goes to this line, and then this line goes over here, and over here you will find that we are pushing that sulfur for our explosives. Let's talk about the ins and outs. Okay, so this is the primary ore box right here. So all of these 20 ore boxes chain together, and then at the end, they come back out to here. And that filter takes just a small sample of them and puts that small sample over into this box. And that output is then sent over here to this conveyor. And this conveyor splits it into the various places. Like this will go over here to electric, and the other one will go into the natural furnace array. And I'll go over these 2 modules individually. We'll start with the electric ones because it's a little simpler. So it goes into a single splitter, and that single splitter goes into 3 conveyors. Those 3 conveyors recombine into a single line. And then the rest of it is in series. This is one long pipe that goes throughout the entire system and then exits here. And that goes back into the splitter, which goes through 3 conveyors. And that exits and goes back into this coffin box. And the coffin box leads back into the depot box in the front of the base. And so it recycles everything back. This is a little more complicated, this module. This is 27 furnace array. And the wiring is really what we need to pay attention to. And I'm just going to do a quick rundown here. First, let me get just like a good view here so you guys can kind of see all the wiring and where it goes. Okay, so you can pause and take note of things that you want to take note of. I'm going to explain it real simple. Okay. This is what's called a sniffer. So these 3 are pushers, and that is a sniffer. Okay. And you can see there is no output because we don't need an output. And the reason is that all it is doing, it is sensing ore. So it's a sensor. Okay. And we are tapping the filter fail and filter pass signals. So I'm going to start with filter pass. So when the system senses any one of these ores is in the system, this filter pass will go high, digital high, and then it will be sent over here to this ore switch. Now, the ore switch itself is only necessary if you want to add these 3 buttons. If you don't want those 3 buttons, if you just want the system to run by itself, you do not need these 2 ore switches. They can be removed completely, and you can just go straight into the AND switches, okay? So the output of the AND switch goes to the right-hand side. So it is important to note that the left-hand switch input is where it is prioritized on an AND switch. We are using these AND switches like power amplifiers. So when this one goes digital signal high and goes into the bottom of the AND switch, this will pass this 7 volts. And the 7 volts will come out the top, go to the splitter, and I've got 3 being sent over here to toggle this. And that is going to allow the 6 to pass, which is going to turn on my 3 igniters. I actually don't know if that's... No, I'm sorry. The branch out is this one. So the 3 volts is going to these. 1, 2, 3. That turns these on. Click, click, click. And that will allow these to begin moving resources. And this filter set is pretty important, so you need to remember this. 10, 5, 10, and 30. And then the filter fail just does the opposite. It goes over here to this timer because you don't want this filter fail on all the time. It'll lock up the system. So you just want a little pulse, and the timer works perfectly for that. So just set this timer to like a short number, like 1 second, and then it will pulse into the OR switch. And from the OR switch, it will be amplified into 4 volts. It will come out as 4 volts, and then it will go 1, 2, and 3, and it will turn these off. Click, 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 and it'll turn off that one as well. Okay. And you don't have to turn that one off. I have a manual button set for that. Let's see if I can get out of here. Okay. So that's how that works. This, by the way, allows you so that way when you run out of wood, instead of the system continuing to run for days and days and days, it'll turn itself off and you don't run out of wood and your TC doesn't fail and everything is happy and glorious. Outside, we have 2 refineries. They are hooked to one another in series. So the output of one goes to the input of the other, and then the output of that goes back inside. I have a single box that is being fed 1,000 wood through this conveyor. It is being pushed actually from a different location, but it is coming in on that line. Okay. Okay, so that's return. So this one comes from the splitter wall and brings crude and puts crude into this box. And then this one, and this is important, these filters are very important. You need 10, 30, and require all. Okay. And this one here, this is going to push out to my refineries. And then we are going to use the filter pass. And that filter pass is going to go to the bottom of the blocker and is going to go out to my igniters. And it's important that you add a little extra power on this line. I like to put about 5 power into this conveyor just to make sure that that igniter on the outside lights up. If you try to give this 1 power, this will not work. You need to make sure you give it more than 1 power. I don't know what the exact number is, but I just kind of default to 5. And then the next one, which is our return conveyor, which is pulling resources and low grade and charcoal out of those refineries. We are taking the filter pass from it, and it is actually turning off the igniters. So whenever resources are flowing back into the system, and whenever they are returning from the refineries, it will turn the igniters off, which keeps your igniters from burning out and going kaputska. Okay. And the output of that is just back into the depot box. So any charcoal or anything that is coming out of those refineries or low grade is just put directly back into the depot box and goes through the buffers and recycles into the system. Okay. And just to kind of show you the speed here for a sec, let me just grab a bunch of ore, I guess. And it'll all kind of pile up in here in the buffer box, and then it will trickle out of the buffer box. Another nice thing is the buffer box is kind of a catch-all for any of the things that you need to recycle. So if you need to recycle stuff, you can just pull it out of the buffer box, recycle it, and then when you're done, put it into this coffin box directly, and it will go wherever it needs to go. I didn't even, it disappeared so quickly I didn't see it. Okay, so all of my resources combine onto this one line, okay? And from there, I split that line and it goes to various boxes, like my repair box or this small resource feeder box for the TC. So once I get to this small box, you can feed this small box directly into the TC and you'll probably be fine. But I like to feed it into one larger box. So it pulls out of here, goes into here, and then from there, I push it into my TC. And this is just paranoia, basically, because I like to be able to look inside this box and make sure that I know I have plenty of resources for everything. So if, for instance, I run out of wood, I don't have 1,000 wood before my TC starts emptying. I have a good amount of wood before my TC starts emptying. And that same line is pushed to all of my other bases. So everything around here all has this yellow line pushing into it and going into a small box, and that small box runs into a large box, and that large box runs into the TC. And that is what keeps your TCs from decaying and keeps your bases from decaying. While I'm here, I want to show you the hanger circuit for the turrets. When you build a hanger, you want your last foundations to be triangles like this. And the reason being is so that way you can have one of these little triangle walls like this, because one of the rules they have about having turrets is they either A, need to be inside your compound, or B, they can't shoot somebody who's like flying by or passing by or just happens to be walking by. So you need to make sure that your base is not made out of twig, because making your base out of twig, the turrets can see through twig. And the second thing I like to do is place it and then tap the has target signal, because sometimes people will walk up here or they'll ladder up here and they will try and get in here and steal your minis, and they'll try and peek and drain the ammo out of your turret. Well, if you take that has target signal and you bring it in and you then put it into an AND switch, correction, this is going into an OR switch first. No. Yeah, it's an AND switch. And we're multiplying that. So when has target this side, B, goes high, it will allow A to pass. And A will go over into the OR switch and pass through the OR switch immediately and go up to the second auto turret. So when that one has a target, this one will turn on. Okay. And once this one turns on, if it has a target, we tap that signal and it comes down here to this AND switch. And that AND switch powers it again. So it keeps it on. So as long as this one sees an enemy over there, it will stay on. It won't turn off. And that will allow you to clear the doorway, which basically means, and by the way, another cute thing you can do right here, you can unhook this one and you can go into, actually not this one, you can unhook this one and you can go into an E branch and you can split the power coming off of it, and you can put it into a smart alarm that will text you when somebody has tried to get in your base. Okay. I believe that is the majority of modules. Except for maybe resource exchange. Leaving one outdoor drop box on a foundation that is kind of pushed away from the base and has full adapters on it and runs into the primary depot box on the far side of the base is very nice to have, because you can drive up, you can fly up, or you can bring the horse directly up here and dump straight into the depot box. Make sure you put a lock on it. Otherwise, you're going to have people filling your base full of rocks because they do that sort of thing. And then last is the automation. The automation is all just push automation. So if I were to go look for any one resource, I'm just trying to think of a single resource I want here, like tech trash. If I go look for tech trash, this is the output of my comps box. And you can see I have a push conveyor. It is set to 20 max. And that will go out and it will go into a splitter. And then from there, it will go into wherever it needs to go. Right there. And there we have our 20 tech trash. And the reason I have tech trash in here is so that way I can pull this blueprint out and I can put a C4 blueprint in here. But if you don't want to do that, So I believe I have explosives, rockets. This is ammo, I believe. Oh, no, it's HVs. And then this one is ammo, HV ammo. You can put that one here, and then you don't need this tier 2. So you don't only need the 2 tier 3s, and then this one over here, which makes my med sticks and makes regular ammo. Ooh, important. When you are putting these things back into your system, you do not want to feed them directly into your depot box because they will just run and 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 consume all your resources. So what you do is you place them into, so this conveyor itself has a filter on it, and that has a max. And that max is very, very important. So any filters like these are coming from the splitter tree. So if people go out and they pick up ammo and they dump ammo into the system, it will try and place the ammo. But if I'm crafting it, it will only craft 2,304, which is exactly 3 rows worth. So you can see I have a little excess here that somebody actually picked up. And the same for box 2. And that just makes sure that I'm not constantly running out of gunpowder because I'm over making ammo. If you try to hook it into your depot boxes, it'll just fill your whole buffer and everything will just turn into ammo and you'll end up with no gunpowder and you'll be like, what happened? Okay, so make sure you go from your automation directly back into storage and bypass the buffer system entirely. Next, I actually have this box here, which is one of my yellow boxes. And you can see how the metal frag is just a little bit low. And the reason the metal frag is low is because it is currently filling into this additional storage section. And this additional storage section is specifically for the resource exchange. So the output over there comes to here. That line's a little crooked. And runs into, that's sulfur, into here. So when somebody makes a purchase, the scrap will automatically be removed from here, or the ore will be automatically removed from here, and the ore will be placed into these ore boxes up here. So it has a very large storage volume, and from there it will trickle back into this box, and from this box it will get smelted, and from this smelter it will go back into the coffin box, and it will then go back through the buffer boxes, and then it will be placed into these boxes, and from those boxes it will be placed back over into these boxes. Okay. And that's how the exchange system works. And then last, this is the auto sensing disco floor. Probably not necessary. Actually, I shouldn't say last because I still have to show you the farm. But we have 3 heartbeat sensors, 1, 2, and 3, and this ore switch is just chained to it. So basically, this just ties all of the heartbeat sensors into a single line. This goes to the timer activation, and it has just a little bit of power, which goes to another ore switch. And the ore switch goes out, and this goes to boombox toggle. Boombox power is its own separate line. That's boombox power. And then we have a smart switch over here. So if I decide I want to turn the audio on, I can do it using a smart switch. And that powers the entire outside disco. And then we can go up to the second floor now. And we can go look at the farm. It is 4x6, I believe. So 24 planters. Nothing particularly hot. We used to have these barrels actually up here along these ledges, which I quite liked. But Grizz got tired of sorting them that way. And it is difficult to find where you left off. This is much easier to be like, okay, I know that this barrel right here is my wheat, you know. And then we have from there, we have 3 fridges. They all have their own filters on them. And then we have our little cooking section and our little crafting section. And I particularly like the small little little staircase that Grizz built here. It's excellent. It really works too, because we were having such a heck of a time getting over this little low wall because of the ceiling would hit you, and so you'd be like jumping and trying to get through here. It'd be really, really annoying. Um, and no, that fixed it beautifully. So, and that is pretty much the entire base. I got my one little beanbag so I can sit here and I can look at the river. And then the last thing is just the disco. And I hope you enjoyed the tour. And I hope all of you have a very wonderful day.